Hello, everyone, and welcome to this live episode of Inlay Terms. I'm your host, Payman Ascari, and back with us we have Bradley, candidate Zylstra. How's it going?
It's going pretty interesting. That's for doggone sure, Payman. Glad to be back.
I take it you're still excited to be a candidate, or
Oh,
has that dissipated and now it's absolute terror?
oh no, yeah, it's we're all just terrified right now. No, it's honestly, it is probably the most exciting and humbling experience of my life to be in this position. So
Well,
it's
welcome.
definitely going to be a journey. That's for doggone sure.
Yeah, I always consider ourselves citizen politicians. We could have taken the easy route and gone with the uniparty, but we didn't.
Yep. Yeah. Well, I mean, got to stick to our principles, right, and hold to our ethics and our integrity.
Absolutely. So, Bradley, we're gonna hopefully we'll get a couple of viewers and some comments, and we'll get to those. But until then, can you tell the viewers a little about yourself? But you've already been on the show once, but specifically, like what prompted you to run, and what's happened since the last time we talked?
Well, I mean, really, what prompted me to run was, multiple times throughout my life, I've been told by especially people I know who have been disenfranchised and whatnot, or live paycheck to paycheck or on government assistance and whatnot, have constantly throughout my life told me that you should get into politics. I'd vote for you, and it's one of those things where you're kind of like whatever, 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 and then something happens like a fateful encounter on Twitter where you open your mouth and say something like, well, I'll take a seat if I gotta, and here we are, start the process. People start to reach out and just like, hey, you know what, if you're gonna, like, here, I got some pointers, or like, here's some encouragement, like, hey, just do it, why not? And again, like I said on the first episode I was here for, like, what's the worst you guys could have said? No. But I mean, now that I'm here, it's like, what's the worst they could have said? Yes. As a joke. I like to joke about stuff like that, but it's no, it what I've been up to in the meantime is just trying to batten down the hatches at home and make sure everything's prepared for me to really not be able to help the people that I normally do, like in a day, or it's just trying to prepare myself to be out there and putting myself out there in front of people and trying to make this country great again and get the word out, shift the Overton window more.
So, Bradley, how many interviews did you have to do?
I had to do two interviews. One was over the phone, and then the other one was in person. And I had the option of either getting the interviewer, Stephen Mack, down here, or go up to Midland and meet him. So I chose to go up to Midland and meet him. Scraped together pretty much every penny I had just so I could make it up there. And then, yeah, apparently I was dressed to impress. So it was an hour-long interview for the in-person, and ended up going to about an hour and 45 minutes. So it's been an interesting journey, that's for sure. And I don't know. I don't know what to say about the support. I never thought I'd be here. So it's a very humbling feeling.
Well, congratulations, you made it.
Thanks.
For my interview, I prepared for it, and they asked every question they asked. I pretty much answered, and then they asked me one question I wasn't prepared for. They said, if someone in your riding asks, "Why should I vote for you?" What will you say? And I was like, "Oh crap!" I didn't prepare for it, so I failed on that one. But was there any questions that you failed on?
I honestly don't think I failed on anything. Odd as that sounds, like I sat there going over the entire interview for like 4 days over in my head, and I'm just like, okay, what did I say? you know? And then, but no, it was. I don't think I really got terribly stumped with too much. There was a couple where it was just kind of like, could you repeat the question? Or, a couple where I answered honestly, like, I don't have an answer for that. So, I mean, I think overall it went well, and I showed that I'm a bit of a diamond in the rough. So,
Well,
polish me up, and I'll be a little bit better.
No, no, it's fine. It's always a learning experience. Good morning. We got a good morning from Prairie. So, how's it going, Prairie? If you have a question, just post it here, and we'll ask it of Bradley.
Scathing
Yeah.
as they
So,
can be.
yeah, yeah. Some hold his feet to the fire. Like, what kind of questions did they ask you? Was it just like, if you're in if you go back in time and you can take out Hitler, would you do it? Was it
Yeah.
those?
I don't think anything quite like that, but there was definitely some us the well, if someone in your writing says, asks like, why should I vote for you? And I don't know, I just went with my gut instinct, like, okay, what are the reasons other people think that I should be, in office, or in parliament? So it just kind of came off the cuff. And I think the last one for me was, I would be willing to take a massive pay cut if I made MP, and then redistribute that back in the difference back into the economy, or do something like helping homeless veterans, something like that. So I don't know. But for the most part, I mean, the questions were, I think, what you'd expect them to be when you're going into a political position. Like, they want to test your character, they want to test your temperament, they want to test, like, does he understand what we've seen as his weaknesses, and what weaknesses does he see, and where does he think his strengths are, right? So it it it, it felt a lot like filling out the application for candidacy. Very, very, like, you got the soul searching questions. You really got to know yourself and know the reasons why you're doing it. So, yeah.
They asked me a question, and I don't remember what I answered, but they said, of the policy, like the PPC policy, are there any ones that you feel strongly about, and are there any ones that you disagree with? Did you get that question?
Yes, I did. I mean, all of the policies I feel very strongly about. So between the two interviews, it was definitely different answers, I think. I think the only one that I really touched on in both was the immigration issue, because of how much it affects literally everything in our country right now. Like, the main things anyway, like the housing, the food, the jobs, right? Like, it's such a massive problem because it's mass immigration. So it's right there in the name.
I think
But
sorry to go ahead.
and then yeah, like, honestly, I think my answer was like, nah, it's pretty foolproof. But I mean, thinking back, even like about 20 years ago, I've been talking to my friends, like, about the political views, and they're like, yeah, you've been saying this for like 20 years, Brad. So basically, you know, the PPC policies are pretty much everything I've been saying for years, except for the LGBTQ thing, that the mental health care system kind of tried to drag me into that whole sphere of everything. So that was that's a problem I think we definitely need to address, is the healthcare system, and especially the mental health care system. But that's an entirely aside, and way off in the weeds there with that one.
So jumping off of that immigration issue, it seems like every single day, like, immigration becomes twice as important or top of mind than the day before. So now, like, social media is about to explode because there's videos going viral of people defecating on the street.
Yeah, I
How do
saw that.
how do we stop this mass immigration issue without leading to, like, massive civil strife?
uh, I think the entirety of Canada needs to rise up and tell everybody in the parliament, like all 338, like, no, this needs to stop now. Everybody needs to hop on a petition and just send it in. Like, what are we even doing here? We used to be a respectable country, and now we got people, you know, shitting in the streets. Pardon my French, but they're literally turning our country to shit. Which,
Yeah, it's a,
quite honestly, like, that's the best way to put it. With the mass immigration, and unfortunately, like, hey, I'm under the realization and the reality that, like, not everybody we're bringing in here is being screened at all. They're not coming in here. They're just coming in here for, like, oh well, my country is garbage, and I'm going to bring all my garbage values over here because I didn't want to stand up and change anything over there. So we really, really, really got to tackle the issue. And I mean, with Pierre now, and I don't understand how CPCU supporters don't see it still. Is Pierre is sitting there like, no, 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 we're not deporting anyone. We're not deporting anyone. We want to bring them in. And it's like, how are we going to build the homes fast enough, man? Like, you're talking about like, oh, let's remove all the red tape, remove all the red tape. Like, buddy, you're introducing other roadblocks into the entire problem. But I mean, I
Right.
get it. He's trying to pander to votes. He's trying to, like, oh, we have a lot of immigrants here already. Like, I need to make sure they're not going to hate me. So we need people sticking to their guns, and we need everybody to just get after the government, man. Like, they caused this problem. We all see the problems, and if enough people speak up, and like even the trucker convoy, like that was prime example of like, hey, they may not do what you wanted them to do, but they'll respond if enough people stand up and say enough is enough.
So we get another message from Prairie. I think she's on the same anti-defecation side as you. So she says, or he or she says, it has to stop immediately.
It
Uh,
really does. And honestly, that's the most glaring issue right now in our politics. Because it's affecting so many other areas. So that's, yeah. Again, most glaring issue, but I think I've seen a lot more of that, especially with these defecation stories lately with other PPC.
yeah,
Oh,
this is this one is an extreme one. So Prairie, she's just lighting up the comments, or he. Um, if you want to write in the comments, if you're a man or a woman, that'll help. I don't
we
feel
don't
like
want
these
to
new.
misgender you.
Yeah, I know. I don't want to go to jail for life.
Yeah.
Um, I don't feel like these newcomers want to integrate with our Western society. What do you
Well, no,
think about that?
they don't, because they're bringing all of the politics and all of the problems from the crappy country they came from over here, and they're just like, nah, this is great. Government's paying me out, and I got that so many organizations rising up to like, oh yeah, no, let's fight for this guy. It's like, we're gonna fight for that guy so he can keep shitting in our streets. Come on now. I apologize for the potty mouth. I'm a little brusque.
I kind of wonder if like this is open defecation, and I guess it's a cultural thing. Maybe in Southeast Asia, for whatever reason,
Well, you look at
it's
the
acceptable.
Ganges and the defecation issue there. I mean, that's the dirtiest river on the planet, apparently.
Yeah. But like I wonder if Canadians, like we went to India, we're all using these toilet bowls. They're like, oh, these savages with their toilet bowls,
Yeah.
all their
Yeah, well,
porcelain.
that would be an interesting one. I wouldn't mind seeing how that goes down.
Yeah,
Just a
or I don't know.
little documentary of, like, I've never been to India before. Let's see about the culture.
All these trashy Canadians walking around plaid, with their weird
Yeah.
accents.
Oh, hey there, bud. How's it
Yeah,
going?
on the roof.
Yeah. How's about that?
um, yeah, but more, like on a serious note, this we've been saying this for a while. Like you cannot bring people from different cultures, and this is a perfect example. It might be socially acceptable in their country. It is completely vile in ours.
Yep.
Uh,
Well, I mean,
what's the
even
solution?
well, I mean, the solution is, I mean, exactly what Max has been saying about like we need to screen these people to make sure that they're coming in, and well, fair enough. uh, just reading the comment there, but no, like Max has been saying, like we got to screen them to make sure that they're coming into Canada to be Canadian and hold our values and to stand for our values. Because right now it looks like everybody's coming in here for a paycheck.
Yeah, money
Which,
is appealing.
well, yeah, which I think really kind of ties into a comment I made on Twitter a while ago about, and we'll go over to now the Middle Eastern folk that are coming into the country too, right? Like we're realistically paying the jizya, like the tax on all non-Muslims that is part of Sharia law, which I mean Sharia law does not line up with our values whatsoever. And we got people calling for that too. And we are realistically paying the jizya, which is a tax which any non-Muslim is supposed to pay to the Muslims, because we're being taxed to death, and then we're paying people to be coming into this country, right? It's in a roundabout way, like and again, we really do have to be more diligent with, especially the government needs to be more diligent with like the numbers, especially because if I read correctly yesterday, that because of the Gazan refugees that are coming in, we're being looked at by the states as a potential security threat. So there's really no consideration being done here except for the money that's involved.
Libertarian partying in New Brunswick. If you want to add a comment, yeah, please go ahead and I'll read it out. What do you, Bradley? What do you think is the driving force of immigration? I mean, I'll be honest, I don't fully understand it either. But like, what is their motivation?
I honestly couldn't tell you other than to completely destabilize our entire society, like our entire culture. And because we're going to rise up, we are the people that will stand. We have enough people that when enough is enough are going to do something about it. Unfortunately, a lot of people are very misled and trying to vote conservative to, and keep voting in this circle. But I really can't understand anything beyond like the politicians are getting massive paychecks from other countries to like, hey, let's completely destabilize this. Like, but yeah, it's a very confusing thing, and I'd really really like to potentially pick some of the brains of some of our 338 in Parliament right now and try and get an honest answer, as difficult as that would be.
Yeah, I was hosting a space yesterday, and I was asking the PPC members, what feedback do you have? What are we doing wrong at the PPC? What could be fixed? And one of the things they mentioned was honesty. Like, there's no honesty from the other parties. Now, I understand why they do it, because when they're honest, the media just like crucifies them. But that that can't be the way out of this. Is just hiding behind what do you call sound bites and talking points.
Yeah, and slogans and
Mhm.
yeah, no, and that's the thing. Like one thing I'm really noticing is like we're not seeing people in these interviews or in these TV moments and whatnot. Like we're not seeing people. We're seeing puppets that have their talking points, that aren't allowed to be human, that are just like, no, this is your job, this is your position, this is what we need from you. It doesn't seem to me like there is any individual autonomy, especially with like a lot of the politicians we're seeing in the spotlight, right? Like it there's no sincerity. It's kind of like you're looking at a blank canvas. Like you look at the eyes and there's nothing there.
Yeah, they're like empty vessels.
Yeah, yeah, almost
Uh,
like they sold their soul.
True. Very true. Which is, I'm assuming, one of the reasons why you chose to run for the PPC instead. That you want your soul intact.
Absolutely. And I mean, I wouldn't make it in. I'm way too outspoken about bull crap I see. They would not handle me very well in the other parties at all because well, I don't like what a lot of them are doing, and I don't like a lot of their policies.
No, that's good. You stand up for what you believe in. Rob Padley, he says all 338 MPs are traitors. I got to agree with that.
Whether they know they're traitors or not, that remains to be seen. Again, like from our last interview, I do truly believe that, you know, I do truly believe that there are good people in parliament. They're just incredibly naive. Like they're
Yeah.
being led along by their heartstrings, and like, okay, here's your core values. We've manipulated them, and that's you now, right? Like that. Yeah, but I definitely they're all complicit regardless. They know what's happening. I know from looking at voting records and whatnot, like there is a good chunk that are actually, saying no and voting no to some of these bills and whatnot. But yeah. I
There was a
definitely we need more people that are willing to just stand and stick to their guns.
there's an interview. Robert Vaughn did an interview with David Haskell, which was he was a PPC candidate in 2019. And Haskell originally he wanted to go conservative, and a couple of the conservative shakers and movers reached out to him, and Haskell's like, "All right, I want to talk about these three things," and they're like, "Well, we can't talk about that because the other side might win, and we can't talk about this because of our donors." And Haskell came to the conclusion that what they really want is people that can follow orders, like they don't want leaders,
Good little
which is
slogan.
yeah. I think he more articulately pointed out what you and I have been talking about this whole
Yeah.
episode. Oh.
Yeah. Oh,
Um, I guess, sorry, I monopolized on the time there. Libertarian Party in New Brunswick, he's saying your federal tax dollars pay for billboards in New Delhi, promising wealthy Indians government grants. The Indians are making the obvious choice to improve their finances and families by coming here. The problem isn't the Indians. The problem is the people inviting them. This is a really good point. Like, how much
yes.
should we be holding the policy makers accountable?
I honestly think 100%. Like that is realistically where the problem lies. And yeah, but yeah, I completely agree. Like it's not necessarily the people who are coming here's fault because yeah, it is advertised to them like, hey, go to Canada for a better life, you know. And yeah, the policymakers are realistically the problem. And again, it goes back to they're just wantonly throwing people in this country just like, oh yeah, no, hey, this is a great idea. This is a great idea. We get lots of money for this. Like this is good for the economy. More people, more money, right? But yeah, it's at a point where, like I mentioned earlier, the entire country needs to stand against this. I mean, we as the PPC are yeah clearly fighting back politically, but it's not gonna be enough the way like on the trajectory we're going like unless we can get more seats and more confidence from people it's gonna have to be a collective effort from the country, from the citizenry, right? Like we all have to band together, not see each other as enemies because of our political leanings. We got to see each other as like we're all Canadians and Canada is being lost. What do we do about it besides stand up, stick to our guns, and rail against our government until the problem is solved? And that's how things are supposed to be.
Yeah, I guess we have to unite.
Absolutely.
So another one from Prairie, and it is a she. So she says the people in the UK have had enough.
Yep.
Do you? This is one of the things that people always ask. Like, do you think that the UK is ahead of us? Like somehow in Canada we haven't woken up yet?
Um, that's a tough one, really, because I mean, I know a couple people in the UK, and they've been on like our side of things, right? Like with the same problems they've been having over there. So I think it's more. I think a lot of why people in Canada aren't waking up enough is because of how propagandized our news has become. Like they're just fleeced. Everything looks so good to them, and what they don't see is it looks too good to be true, and they can't see where the cracks in the facade are. It but again, like we had the military admitting back after like the pandemic bullcrap, that they have been utilizing psyops on the on the people of Canada. So it's one of those things like how deep does the psyop go? Because I mean, I'm not a cable guy. I don't really watch much besides like streaming and YouTube. So I mean, I really don't know what people are watching these days, but I know for a fact the news. Like I just scroll through and just see the headlines and like, all right, like we got this, and I bet you that's a bunch of bull crap. Let's go look at independent sources and whatnot. So we don't have enough people with enough distrust of everything they're seeing because they're just taking it all at face value, right?
Prairie. I don't watch any corporate Marxist media.
Yeah, I don't either. I really
Uh,
don't, and I've tried to encourage much of my family, like, hey, let's get away from this. Like, stop watching this crap because that's all it is. Is it's crap. It's gonna twist the story. And I even explained to them like the $120 million smear and blackout campaign from the the sheer days, like that. And my parents are just kind of like, I don't know about that. I'm like, it happened. That's why you're not hearing about PPC in the media.
I remember I was talking to my father when the vaccine rollout happened, and I didn't tell him don't get the vaccine. I said, talk to your doctor. Here's what DNA is. Here's what RNA is. Understand the risk, and
Yep.
don't listen to anything the media says. And then my dad said, yeah, but if it's not true, why is the media? Why would the media say it, and why would the politicians say it? And I'm just like, I don't really have a. There's not enough time for me to explain that.
Yeah. Well, I'm very fortunate that like I had my uncle in my family, or have my uncle in my family too, because he was very much against the vaccines. So I mean, he's staunch conservative though. Like if I remember correctly, he's not far removed from Doug Ford. Like he does know people who have direct contact with Doug Ford. So I mean, but that's mainly because like that's how they were raised. Like my family was raised like, no, conservative is the way we vote. Conservative is about the farmers and about the working class, and not really, but okay. But that's the thing. Like there aren't enough voices in my family that can kind of shift their window over a little bit. Like, okay, maybe we should have a little bit of distrust here. So hopefully we can bring that over.
Yesterday in the space, another piece of feedback we got from the members was that PPC needs to be more, in the media space, more in the press. Obviously, mainstream media is difficult, but there are other ways like this. And
Yeah.
Prairie said, like, she wants to hear more from the PPC. So,
Oh, absolutely. I mean, heck, I think even my family would like to see more from the PPC and learn a little bit more. And I'm like encouraging them, like, well, here's the platform. Follow Maxime Bernier on Twitter. Like, there are ways you can learn this, and they're just kind of like, I don't really want to do that, or like, hey, watch Inlay Terms podcast, right?
well,
So I've tried to encourage people. So
yeah, it's people who watch it regularly love my show, but I understand it's very content heavy. It's not,
yeah,
it's not for
yeah.
everyone.
Well, yeah, and that's just it. Like it is not a lot of people want politics to be prevalent in their life or in their thoughts. They don't really want it to be at the forefront of their mind. They want to go about their lives and not have to think about the hard things, right? So I can understand why people, watching a political podcast can be a little bit dry for some and a little bit heady and just a lot of like, oh, I really got to think about my shit now.
Um, So again, from Prairie, she says she follows Max a lot. I think what she's saying is if you put out content, she will follow you. So there's your first follower.
Well, there we go. I mean, I do have the podcast. I haven't utilized in 2 years. We're figuring this thing out. This is a new machine. I'm not very acquainted with technology. Like I'm about 25 years behind on tech and how to operate it. So got to learn how to set this thing up. And I mean, we got everything set up. We're all mic'd and ready to go. So
Yeah,
I've also had to kind of
that's good.
think about like the format of the podcast too. So how it's going to run. Have to change the name because there is a Pickles pub in Maryland, and they do have a podcast. So I don't want to, screw them over with that. So I got to change the name and change a few things.
Change it to the People's Pub.
Yeah, the People's Pub, or that's a doggone good idea. And yes, I will be. I am on YouTube. I think right now I have the 2 episodes I have out. I think I changed the name to Pickles Place Podcast, but I like the People's Pub.
There you go.
People's Pub Podcast. That's a good one.
If you make $1 million, I want at least $100 out of that.
I think I could do that.
So what? I guess we drifted quite a bit on immigration. What about the economy? Like, I went over the stats before. What are we? 2.5 federal national debt, 2.5 trillion national debt, 500 billion budget, 550 billion deficit, 50 billion interest payments. Like, what's going on?
A lot of grasping at straws and a lot of I think a lot of promises to a lot of people, and they just really have fumbled on a lot of everything. Like, I'm not an economist, I will admit. Like, I'm not a financial guy. I'm not huge on money, as evidenced by, hey, I have this opportunity to make a lot of money. And it's like, no, we're not doing that. I'm not gonna go from, what is the we're getting off track, but I am anyway. But no, a lot of problems do come back to the immigration. Like, you got more people, you're printing more money, you're devaluing the dollar. I've been trying to catch up on financial stuff, watching Russell Matthews and a couple other financial people. So, whom I'm very pleased you're going to have on the show. That was the random
Yeah.
But no, looking out at the economy, like we have so many people, not enough jobs for them, not enough houses for them. We're not putting money into the economy. We're taking money from it, and we're allocating it to other countries, useless projects like that are gonna fail, like this bunch of land that got effectively annexed out in St. Thomas for an EV factory that's likely going to fail. So it's a bunch of failed projects. It's a bunch of like, oh, hey, we got this idea. It's going to fail. We know it's going to fail. And then they're throwing money away at foreign wars that have nothing to do with us, and is causing more strife and division within our own country because you got people so polarized about it. So it's just a mess. We don't have a functioning economy right now. We haven't for a few years, and COVID was probably the I've been saying it for years. With a lot of the things going on, and a lot of all the biolabs and everything, and this virology, and it's going to cause. I knew it was going to cause a massive worldwide sickness. I knew it was going to collapse the economy. It was going to kill the small business. It was going to, kill the ability of the regular citizenry to go out, do their job, and put money, get money and put it back into the economy through, purchasing. I'm ashamed. I hate that I was right. I hate that I was right, but that was honestly, I think, the big start to the collapse in our economy, along with the immigration. And I can't really ramble too much on about that because I don't know enough. So I will learn more.
Let's go back to, I want to pick up on what you said about the EV, the subsidies to the EV company, EV battery company. This green agenda thing is something that really gets me really angry. Does the government ever have the right to take your money and give it to a company without your permission?
I don't think it ever should. I think, something like that should be up to vote for the people. Like, do we want this? Do we think we need this? I mean, clearly we're seeing a lot of issues with like the whole EV system in general. Like, what do we do with the batteries afterward? Oh, they go to a landfill. What usually happens there? Oh, a big fire starts because the battery got wet. Like it's and it's not sustainable. We don't have the electrical infrastructure. So yeah, these EV plants, I don't think anybody but a select few actually wants them. Like at least in the scale that they're trying to push it on us, right? Instead of like, hey, we have a great, reliable resource right now, or we should be investing in nuclear. Really, we have a lot safer options than we did a bunch of years ago. It's gotten a lot cleaner. Like if I think a lot more people would be a lot more on board with government subsidies like that if it was going to things that are tried and true and actually are effective.
We last time you and I had an episode together, we did an interview. We were joking about illicit drug use. We said like if you're a drug user and you don't have money for drugs, you should do less drugs, not more.
Yeah,
to,
absolutely,
to, I
absolutely.
that just made me chuckle. But what I was gonna say, sort of related to that, like something about spending other people's money is always a bad idea. Like if it's your own money, I guess you have to choose between drugs and butter or drugs and bread. You're gonna go
Yeah,
with bread, right? But when it's
yeah,
somebody else's money, you spend it on anything. Oh, we should put some solar panels. Who cares? Oh, we're getting rid of farmland. That doesn't matter. Government will give me food somewhere.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, and that's honestly that's the problem. I think is a lot of people are looking at it like, ah, it's not my money. It's not my money. But yeah, it realistically should be the government investing in things without. I mean, it's going to be taxpayer dollars anyway, but um, the government does have a responsibility, especially federal government, to actually improve the economy and like, yeah, okay, pay for certain things, like get themselves money, like generating money for themselves without having to effectively extort it from the taxpayer.
That is extortion, really.
Yeah, I watched that episode. I try and catch as much of your content as possible.
Oh, that was with I think Curtis Hano,
I
the
think so.
student
Yeah,
from Ryerson. Yeah, he's like taxation is extortion and inflation is theft. Yeah.
yeah. I honestly, I 100% agree with that.
What are we at? 38 minutes. So we covered immigration, we covered the economy. I mean, no episode on Canada would be complete with this without discussing the housing market.
I'm stuck here. I can't move. I can't afford to. And I know a lot of people that are in the same spot. Like even people who own houses, they're like, yeah, if I sell, what am I going to be able to buy with it? Right? I'm going to be downsizing for the same amount of money.
Yeah, it is a bit of a myth. Like if it's your second home,
Yep.
then it's inflation resistant savings, fine. But if it's your primary home, even if you bought it for 100,000, now it's worth $1 billion. Well, you still have to go buy another $1 billion home.
Well, and not only that, but once you sell your home, you're going to get taxed to death on it, especially now with this capital gains tax. Like, I'm not sure if that's gone through yet or whatnot. I'm a little behind on a couple of things because I've been so hectically busy trying to make sure like everybody out here is like, all right, I'm gonna be really really busy soon. So we'll take, but yeah, getting off track again. But yeah, the housing market is wild right now. Like, if you can find an apartment, you're you're moving from one place that's like, if I move, I'm paying 1462 here um monthly. Thankfully it's all inclusive here. I'm grandfathered into that. They can't change that on me. That's in my contract. But like moving from here even to a similar sized apartment. Like I've got just shy of 1,100 square feet, and if I moved, I'm paying an extra $300 a month. Like it's like minimum 1750 for a place like this, and it's not all inclusive anymore. It's like, no, you're paying your utilities, and on top of like phone bills these days, we have the most exorbitantly high uh, phone service cost and internet service cost in the world. Other than, yeah, even Australia is doing better than us right now. But and that's all contributing to the housing market too. Is like more and more people are becoming homeless because it's just completely unfeasible to rent, because you're sitting there needing to make like $2,500 a month just to barely scrape by.
I talked to Emily Dougal. She's not with the PPC, but she ran in BC Kootenays for school trustee. And she was talking about how all these people that are homeless now because they couldn't meet their mortgages and they're camped out in front of City Hall. And she goes, "That's exactly where they need to be because these bastards who caused this problem, they should look them in the eye every morning."
Yeah, absolutely. I am 100% for that. And I mean, here in London, that's effectively what's happening. Even though, they're trying to decentralize the whole social services system, and all the supports that they have for the homeless downtown and whatnot, because that's been the main hub for homelessness and for everybody to go get their social services done is downtown London. And so for us, there's really no excuse, because for years and years, City Hall has been seeing the homeless, and they've been seeing like, hey, we got some serious issues here. I mean, here in London, I brought it up last time, but we got a guy here, Farhi, who owns so much of downtown, like so many of the buildings, and it's just like he charges way higher than market value for a lot, and has for a long time, and has single-handedly contributed more to the homeless issue, at least here in London, than probably even, or at least matched with what the government's been doing with the immigration shit.
Um, we went back to immigration, didn't we? It's the
Yeah, we
most
did,
important
but it all
issue.
comes back to immigration. That's the problem. Like a lot of the problems we're seeing do come back to immigration.
That's actually what I meant. What David Eby, the premier of BC, the politicians love doing this. Like, there's a problem, people are complaining about it for 3 years. They're none the wiser, and then when it's politically, advantageous, the guy's like, "Yeah, I think immigration's too high." Immigration is not just a federal choice. Like, the provinces decide how many they take in.
Yeah.
How much of this blame should rest on the shoulders of the premiers?
Oh, a lot. Very equally as much, honestly. Um, like I especially looking at Doug Ford sitting there, knowing he can control how much immigration happens in Ontario, and he's just sitting there telling them like, "Oh yeah, don't come here." Like, just don't come here. Like, dude, do something. You have the power, man. Like, come on, make this your redemption arc. We want you to be like your brother. Come on.
Yeah, I get it. They would look at which way the political winds are blowing as they look to polling, but this
Yeah.
is not good leadership. Like, if you Pierre Poilievre, I actually agree with what he did, but I remember when the Trump assassination attempt, Pierre Poilievre put out a post. He said, "Trump's alive, the shooter's dead, and I'm glad he's dead." I agree
Yeah.
with that. Like, I think, if you're an assassin and you die, good riddance.
Yeah.
But Pierre did that just to test the waters, and I think they want to see if they should lean. They're looking to polling. Should we lean more MAGA or less MAGA? And
And that's
no.
and but then again, that's where you get like this flip flop where you see him at the beginning of, like, even before he was leader of the Conservative Party, like he was on fire. Like he was doing excellent, and he seemed very genuine and sincere, and like he was actually standing up for the Canadian people. Then as soon as you see him get it into leadership, you can start to see like, oh, now we got a cocky little dink over here who, like, oh, I got this in the bag, it's easy now. And so it's easy for him to flip flop back and forth. and it is dangerous. Prairie, it very much is dangerous with Pierre because he can act sincere about everything. And then, it's he's showing you one hand, but he's got another one behind his back with a knife.
I think I it's almost guaranteed that they're going to get a win.
Oh yeah.
Definitely a minority, maybe a majority, but I don't think. How do I say this? Like it it's not as strong their base as he might think because they have no policies, they have no platform. Like the party's running on basically it's a not Trudeau platform. That's it.
Yeah. Meanwhile, yeah, it's basically, that's just it. It's they're very much just like, oh, what is Trudeau doing? We're going to do the opposite. Oh, Trudeau actually wants to deport illegal immigrants. No, we're going to do the opposite of that. And that's not how you win the hearts and minds of people. That's not how you lead. That's not how, you know, that's not how you have integrity. Like there is no integrity there. It is just flip flopping to, oh yeah, this sounds good and people are gonna love me for it. Oh, that sounds good. People are gonna love me for it. And I really hope that we're not moving into a surprise election coming up, like vote of no confidence. I really, really hope we're not, and I really, really hope that the mask really starts to fall off, or people can start to see through the cracks in the mask and see that he's just flip flopping um, uh, before the 2025 election. I really, really hope that he keeps going this way in a sense, because that is guaranteed to show the weakness and show that like this guy really isn't for us. And I think that would give us a bit more of an advantage going into the election next year.
Prairie, I don't understand what the question is. Axe the tax, is it on farmers? Is where he stops as well. Maybe we ask it. Do you understand the question?
Yeah, and honestly, I don't think he's going to axe anything. Like he's really not. He's going to cut off the taxes where they're at. He's going to rename it to something else so it looks like we're not paying carbon tax anymore. And then, because that's money for the government. You think that they're going to sit there and be like, "Oh, we have this income stream. We're just going to ditch it." you know, it that's exactly what he's going to do. It's not going to be axe the tax. That's the slogan. It's going to be, we're going to cut it off from going any further. Like we have this set up. It's generating money for the economy, generating money for the economy. Um, but yeah, it's. I'm tired of his slogans. I'm really tired of his slogans because there's
Yeah, a
no
lot of
substance to them. There's no substance to them. Like you said, like there is no policies or anything. So there is no substance. There is no. It's just him talking. It's all a bunch of smoke being blown up our butts. And yeah, I know I finally used the not sailor mouth, but like he's blowing smoke up everybody's butt, and it, you can see it with his little smirks after every time he has his brilliant slogans going out there. Like there's just this look on his face. If you know anything about like reading people by their facial expressions, that guy is a smug little bug. Like I do not like him at all.
Um, I guess we can stop beating on the Conservative Party and focus on the NDP Liberal coalition. You alluded to maybe a snap election. I've talked to a couple of people, and they mentioned this in the space yesterday as well. First of all, it's not to their advantage to call an election because they're going to get wiped out. But there's a lot of talk about how the NDP basically they're going to merge the NDP and the Liberal Party, which is what they are now. It's like it's one giant communist party.
Yeah.
But the NDPs are going to say, you know what, we'll drop out of these ridings, so the votes just automatically go to the Liberal candidate, and then maybe whatever they'll get something on the back end or whatever. But like my point is, what keeps me up at night is that 51% of Canada is embracing, let's call it socialism, but I call it communism.
Yeah. Yeah, that it honest, but that's the thing. They don't understand those systems, and they don't understand the system that we have that's really leaning into that, right? Like, I'm okay with a little bit of socialism in our economy, like in our country. Like, you need social services, you need some, some amount of taxpayer dollars going towards services for the people. But that's not necessarily to say that like we should go full blown socialist. I actually, a post of mine on Twitter got resurfaced today and last night with me calling our country a post nationalist socialist country. It, it, I mean, you'll look at kind of how the Nazis did things, and we're kind of going that way without being, like, oh yeah, hey, all about Germany. Like, we're kind of, PPC is kind of stuck in that, because I know we got a lot of nationalists, but um, we are in a post nationalist social, because it's all about like, oh, the taxpayer dollars are going to pay the taxpayer back, right? Like, oh, we're you're giving the government complete control. I mean, Nazis, they kind of got wrestled out of everything, but and they were, like, all about just them and their nation. And now we're seeing our country post nationalist, which is, like, oh no, 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 we're just going to bring in everyone from everywhere, and forget nationalism. We don't really want to have an identity anymore. It's a difficult thing to really button down, and it appalls me that everybody wants the government to have more control, because time and time, like, everybody's like, oh, I hate the government, I hate the government, but at the same time they're just like, yeah, no, 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 feed me, government, like, give me, tell me what to do. I don't want to have free agency. And it's this weird dichotomy we have here in Canada right now.
Yeah, we're not grown-ups anymore. We're
No,
children.
we're all children. It's a kindergarten here. It's like, no, 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 daddy government, just tell me what to do. Like, no, no, our daddy government is abusing us, and we should fight back.
So, Papa Trudeau, I got a boo-boo. Kiss it better.
Yeah. Oh, the government can solve all the problems. No, how about you get off your butt and solve some of your own?
Yeah. Well, no. Prairie says no. I guess hopefully she's saying no to socialism, but to each their own. Um, I guess we're at the end of the interview. Any final words?
I
What do you
apologize
have
for
in
getting
mind?
off in the weeds.
Yeah. What's in store for your new candidacy?
um, well, I mean, hadn't really thought that far yet. Didn't think I'd make it this far, and I'm again gathering the resources tonight. I do have a meeting with the regional association, so I mean, we're definitely going to um, figure something out. But I know one thing I do want to address, like, for myself, because hey, I've come a long way. I was homeless 6.5 years ago,
Oh,
and now I'm running for MP candidate, or like, uh, it's a wild story. And I think I just want to keep things very simple, very cost effective, low cost, especially because, I mean, that's just how I am. I want to get things done as cheap as possible. Heck, even going up to the conference, I'm not spending money on a hotel room. I have a friend up there. I'm staying at his place. I'm going to camp out in his backyard. Like, and I know people all over the country too. So I know I always have a free place to stay pretty much. And yeah, that's kind of how I'm running it. Like, I don't want to cost anybody anything. Like, that's not me. That's going to be a big part of my campaign. Is like, I'm not going to cost you much. I'm going to try and make your money go further. That's it, right? I want the country to be back to where it was, where I could rent an entire house, 5-bedroom house for $800 a month, all inclusive. I know we're not
yeah.
going to get back to that. That's a pipe dream, but as an example, like, I want to get back to that Canada where my money went further, where I could feed 5 people, expensive pizza for $20. instead of
Yeah.
go out, spend $20 and I bought a loaf of bread and some lunch meat.
Or like $6 for a half a liter of Coke Zero.
Don't even get me started on. I don't even like Coke Zero, but yeah, like it's ridiculous. Like, why am I paying, like $4 a bloody beer?
Yeah, it's not feasible to be an alcoholic anymore. Those good old
Well,
days are
heck,
over.
it's not feasible just to enjoy a few on the weekend anymore. You're spending like $25 on a 6 pack of craft beers.
And
Come
I
on,
always buy the
Dougie. I thought you
cheapest.
said I want buck a beer, Doug.
Yeah, make beer make beer cheap again.
Yeah, there's my slogan.
Uh, all right, Bradley. Thanks for stopping by, and we should do
Thanks
this
for
more
having me.
often. And
Yeah,
keep
I
me
think so.
posted.
Yeah, thank you very much, and we'll see you at revision, I think.
Oh yeah, definitely. Looking forward to it.
Me too. Have a good one, Payman.
You too.